Are we truly ready to revisit the ghosts of off-seasons past? Or is this a stroke of genius that could finally complete the Toronto Maple Leafs puzzle? As the scorching late July sun beats down on Toronto, the hockey world feels eerily quiet. The usual buzz of trade rumors and free agent frenzy has been replaced by a suffocating silence, leaving many fans feeling like they're sifting through hot sand in the wind. But for those who listen more than they watch, a faint echo is beginning to emerge from the depths of the offseason. A whisper that something, perhaps something significant, is still coming. That Brad Treliving, the Leafs' shrewd general manager, still has cards up his sleeve. And maybe, just maybe, the name starting to reverberate behind the scenes is a familiar one, Tyler Bertuzzi. For many, the mention of Bertuzzi feels like a jarring case of déjà vu. He's already worn the blue and white, already had his shot, his moment, his fit, or rather, his perceived lack thereof. But like so many stories within the storied franchise, narratives rarely conclude in the first chapter. This might just be the second chance no one saw coming. The kind of opportunity the Leafs have been trying to create for years, only to see it slip through their fingers when the ice starts melting in May. Today, we're going to dive deep into this tantalizing possibility. This isn't about empty hype or speculative fantasy. It's about fit, about context, about a team that's changing from the inside out and might need to reclaim something it let get away. And it's also about Tyler Bertuzzi himself, a player who represents more than just numbers on a spreadsheet. He could be the symbol of a new mindset, the missing piece on a chessboard that's still taking shape. The 2025 offseason has been anything but chaotic for the Toronto Maple Leafs. Compared to previous years, where every week brought a new, often dramatic headline, this time around, the moves have been surgical, almost quiet. But don't be fooled by the calm. Every step taken by Treliving has been calculated, every adjustment precise, and everything points to the next move being bigger, more impactful. Treliving has been running this offseason on his own timeline. A refreshing change in an NHL that's more impatient than ever. And that deliberate pace might be exactly the edge Toronto needs. So far, he and newly appointed head coach Craig Berube have focused on adding depth, reinforcing the team's foundation, and adjusting the player profile. They've sought out tougher, less flashy players. Individuals more aligned with the kind of team that survives and thrives in the grinding crucible of the playoffs. But there's still something missing, and not just any piece. What's missing is a name with fire in their eyes, someone with thick skin, someone who truly wants to embrace the privilege of playing in Toronto. That's precisely why Bertuzzi is back on the radar. While that might sound contradictory, considering he left after playing a high level, the story now represents a short-term solution because the coach is different, the identity is different, and crucially, the fit is different too. During his previous stint with the Leafs in the 2023-24 season, Bertuzzi was a curious project. He arrived alongside Max Domi as part of a package intended to inject more grit and snarl into the lineup. And to a certain extent, it worked. But the primary issue was distribution. Then head coach Sheldon Keefe seemed insistent on deploying Bertuzzi predominantly with Austin Matthews and Mitch Marner. It was an unbalanced line where Bertuzzi often acted more as a workhorse, a forechecking machine, rather than an active, consistent offensive contributor in the way he's capable. Still, he managed a respectable 43 points in 80 games, with 21 goals and 22 assists. Not bad, especially for a player who never truly had a consistent run on a line that perfectly suited his style. Now, under Craig Berube, the entire tactical conversation shifts. The approach is fundamentally different. With Matthew Knies seemingly solidified on the top line next to Matthews and Marner, the door swings wide open for Bertuzzi to take on a more natural, impactful role. Second-line winger next to William Nylander and John Tavares. In this configuration, he can become the physical element, the net front presence, the body in the dirty areas that the team sorely lacked in their last postseason exit. This isn't just about working hard. It's about creating space, about taking hits so Nylander can dance on the ice, about giving Tavares second and third chances with the puck to do what he does best around the net. That's the kind of player Bertuzzi is. He doesn't steal the spotlight, but when the games get ugly, when the stakes are highest, he shows up. And that's exactly what the Leafs need, because they already have talent in spades. What they've lacked for years is the kind of player who can turn a dull, tightly contested game into a grinding war, a war that ultimately favors the blue and white. During his subsequent season with the Chicago Blackhawks, Bertuzzi showed continued growth and resilience. In 82 games on a rebuilding team with little structure around him, he still managed to score 23 goals and add 23 assists. It's easy to imagine that in a more cohesive system like Berube's, with elite line mates, his numbers could grow even further. But it's not just about the statistics. It's about the sense of belonging he left behind. Even in a turbulent season, the fans connected with him. The locker room respected his effort and his unwavering commitment. And that means a lot in a franchise where outside pressure often breaks less prepared players. The big issue, of course, is the contract. Bertuzzi has 2 years left on a deal with a $5.5 million cap hit. For Toronto, a team already right up against the salary cap, that number is significant. So, any move to bring him back will require some serious financial maneuvering. That's where players like Kaye Jarnkrok and David Kampf come into the picture. Both are useful, experienced, and reliable players, but perhaps they're past their peak in terms of overall usefulness for the specific roster. Both have salaries that, when combined, could open enough room for Bertuzzi's cap hit, and both seem to be on the list of potentially available names. But that alone isn't enough for Chicago to agree to a trade. They need more than just cap relief. They need real value. That's why Nicholas Robertson's name is starting to gain significant traction in these discussions. Robertson is one of those stories Leafs fans know all too well. An undeniable talent, but plagued by injuries, limited minutes, and instability in the lineup. Always viewed as the next great sniper, time has passed, and he's never really gotten a proper shot. Not for lack of skill, but due to circumstances that consistently push him down the depth chart. Chicago, on the other hand, can offer exactly what he needs: space, freedom, guaranteed minutes, and a coach willing to bet on a young, instinctual scorer. In other words, the ideal setting for a player who truly could become a 30-goal scorer. So, here's the dilemma, Leafs Nation. As a fan, would you give up Robertson, a player with sky-high potential, for a more mature, more physical, more right-now player like Bertuzzi? Or would you keep waiting for that potential to finally explode? It's a harsh question because we all know how high Robertson's ceiling could be. But we also know Toronto's patience with this kind of prospect is running out. The pressure to win is so great that waiting for a flower to bloom isn't always an option. And there's more to it. Bertuzzi wouldn't be returning just for his on-ice contributions. He represents something bigger, a return to an identity the team desperately needs to solidify. Since Berube arrived, the tone has changed dramatically. What used to be all speed and skill is now about grit, resilience, and a willingness to engage in the physical battles. And Bertuzzi fits that mold perfectly. In the playoffs, he's precisely the type of player who makes a tangible difference. Because when space disappears and the ice gets heavy, it's guys like him who keep a team alive, who win those crucial puck battles, who create chaos in front of the net. Toronto in recent years has racked up painful eliminations precisely because they've lacked this kind of second-line presence. Players who occupy the ice with their body, not just their talent. And it's not like Bertuzzi is a liability offensively. He can score, he can find rebounds. He has good vision on the power play, and he plays with constant intensity. But his real value comes from something that doesn't always show up on the score sheet. It's the emotional impact, the way he agitates opponents, the way he rallies a team when the game starts slipping. That kind of presence in a locker room still finding its identity post-Marner would be invaluable, especially now that the coaching staff demands a different kind of leadership. Berube isn't exactly known for soft touches. He demands effort. He pushes players. But he also respects those who sacrifice. And Bertuzzi is one of them. He doesn't shy away from contact, doesn't complain about rules, and doesn't disappear when the pressure mounts. That's why, despite all the questions surrounding a possible return, the idea doesn't sound absurd. Quite the opposite, it sounds necessary. Fans, by the way, never really understood why Bertuzzi wasn't brought back in the first place. Many felt that between him and Domi, the obvious choice was to keep Bertuzzi, but financial circumstances won out. And now, with Jarnkrok and Kampf possibly on the move, the door reopens. From the Blackhawks side, the trade also makes sense. They're no longer just collecting picks. They're looking for young pieces who can grow alongside Connor Bedard and company. And Robertson, at 22, still fits that timeline perfectly. Of course, no deal like this happens overnight, but the signs are there. Brad Treliving operates in silence. That's how it went with Dakota Joshua. That's how it went with Max Domi. And if Bertuzzi is truly on the radar, you can bet the call has already been made. What this trade would ultimately represent is more than just a roster adjustment. It would be a reaffirmation of identity, a clear step toward a team that knows where it wants to go and how it wants to play when it gets there. The Leafs need more than talent. They need edge, grit, players who make the other team think twice before entering the zone. And believe it or not, that's exactly what Tyler Bertuzzi brings. Now, the question remains, is it worth the cost? Is it worth giving up Robertson for more rugged, less promising, but more ready-now certainty? Is it worth sacrificing useful contracts for a player who might not be a star, but could be the difference maker? Or should the Leafs keep waiting for the perfect formula that never seems to come? You decide. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Let me know what you would do. Make the trade or hold back. And if you enjoyed this deep dive, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications because there are more hot rumors coming soon. And who knows, maybe in the middle of this August heat, Brad Treliving will drop the first real bomb of the summer. See you next time, and as always, go Leafs go!